Have you always wanted to visit India, but the hassle of planning and the intensity of group schedules is putting you off? Hi, I'm Craig, owner and tour leader of Maharaja Tours. With 40 years experience travelling India, I curate stress-free luxury tours where you can expect top hotels, easy travel, excellent guides and delicious food. Visit my website www.maharajatours.co.nz and explore your options for touring incredible India.
Okay, we have a large number of contributors to this program, obviously, and we have regular guests and panelists. And one of those regular guests and panelists is, of course, Councillor Tony Randolph. So we have the letter from Wellington each year. We've got a letter from Sydney from Jackie. We have a letter from Wellington from Tony Randall, and he was re-elected, as we know, into a very left-green council, I have to say, the Wellington City Council. So he's going to be in for an interesting 3 years. But somebody who'd been a former Member of Parliament and councillor, who has been a regular correspondent every week and then every fortnight, as you know, our sort of letter from Dunedin or Otago was Hilary Calvert. And she's contributed greatly to the platform over the last 2 or 3 years in particular, and given her particular unique perspective and what's been happening in the Soviet Socialist Republic of Dunedin, but also other issues as well. Well, yesterday, blow me down. There she is on the front page, or its equivalent of the Otago Daily Times. Big picture of Hilary Calvert, newly elected and unopposed, unanimous choice, it would appear, of the Otago Regional Council elected members to be the new chairperson of the Otago Regional Council, the second largest regional council in New Zealand. And Hilary joins us now. Hilary, congratulations. What an outstanding result. What do you put it down to? Your natural and incredible charm and personality? Well, this is just the way politics works, or some combination thereof.
Well, perhaps no one else who was competent or who thought they would get the support of the council table.
Well, that's not what I wanted to hear. You mean the last person standing in the room, you mean?
No, because I like to feel that it was unanimous because, chosen unanimously because people had some confidence and faith in my ability to carry out the tasks required.
Right, okay. Nonetheless, you got elected, you've come back into... Can I ask you, you'd retired. I think you're 71, I saw just recently. You retired from politics 3 years ago. What induced you? You've had a distinguished career as a Member of Parliament, as a City Councillor, as a Regional Councillor. What induced you to get back into the pond again?
I thought that this particular time was a time when I could, with like-minded fellow councillors, having enough of them, make a difference to what the Regional Council was doing. There's a mood for change in the community. There's a mood for councils getting back in their box and stopping charging so much, value for money considerations, and that councils have got sort of just out of control, and that I might be able to be part of a group who could help just get it back into the box it belongs in.
I see that you joined a group called Vision Otago. You are obviously a co-founder of that group, and you led it through the election campaign. And you've got down here, I've just gone to your web page, you're intending to rebuild local democracy by making decisions more transparent, accessible and accountable. Is there a particular problem that your regional council or local government has in general in terms of its trust and its representation?
Yes, I think it's partly, it ties in with the rise of the dominance of the managerial class, if you like. And what I think a lot of councils have found is that they've got a whole lot of staff who nature abhors a vacuum. So if there's a vacuum, the staff will run what is thought of as the business of a council, and they will keep doing everything they need to do to keep it ticking along. So if the governance doesn't do their job, the staff will take over that job because it has to keep happening. So the balance of the staff and the governance has got right out of whack with a whole lot of councils, I think. And the staff will just fill that gap. I mean, they have to, but governance should be doing their proper task. And the staff have taken, not our staff in particular at all, but they have taken to thinking they're the experts and they give advice about things and it should just be followed. And the only point in governance really is to have a meeting once in a while and say, didn't the staff do a good job? Thank you. And we'll do what they say. You've noticed it probably in central government where this government, for example, from quite regularly doesn't take the advice of Treasury or someone. So publicly the Treasury advice comes out or somebody else advises them and blow me down, they don't do it. And there's outrage now amongst people who say, how dare they go and do something that against Treasury advice or something? And you think, well, because they're governance and they don't have to take the advice of somebody. That's just advice. It's advice, and it might be good advice and it might be highly expert advice, but it's just advice. The whole point of having a governance lot, the politicians, is that they can choose what they do. It's not for the civil servants to choose what the governors do.
Is the reason,
So
well, when I was a mayor 20 odd years ago, you might have made the same criticism that staff were in charge of local government, but also of central government as well, and that either councils, mayors, or ministers of the Crown were very much the voice pieces for those bureaucrats and those senior bureaucrats and policymakers within those departments or councils. Do you think it's got worse over the last 20 years, or it's always been like that?
I think it's always had a tendency, if governance isn't strong, to be like that. So when you have a weak lot of people in the governance role, then it gets worse. But I think it's got worse recently too, and partly because the managerial classes, as it were, have got out of their box a bit when they shouldn't. Like, we've got an organisation, Local Government New Zealand, who supposedly represents the councils around New Zealand. And in point of fact, it represents their own staff views, as far as I can tell. Now, people have left it in droves, councils, and Auckland isn't a member, Christchurch isn't a member, part of Hawke's Bay, part of the West Coast, some others. So it now represents councils with fewer than half the New Zealand population. So, but the reason it's got like that is that the staff in LGNZ have got very, what you could loosely term left wing, and right out of their box. So they're advising people on Maori wards, which is none of their concern. They're advising people that they're trying to get a campaign against the government putting a rates cap on, when 75% of the people in New Zealand want a rates cap, even if they're not totally sure how it would work. So they've started just doing things that are right out of their lane. And I think that's happening in councils too. There's a temptation to do that, and I think it's made worse by having a so-called partnership with iwi, where there's another lot of experts in the room. So there's staff from councils who are all experts, and then there's iwi, who apparently experts over all land and water in your area. And the governors don't really have a role much if they don't assert one.
Yes,
So
it's a fair point, isn't it?
governance.
So you've got your own staff, then you've got iwi or mana whenua representatives, and then you've got local government New Zealand overpinning. It'd be fair to say, wouldn't it, that the ideologies of those three influences upon an elected members would stray towards the left green, wouldn't it? They're not exactly conservative voices, are they? They do tend to embrace ideology.
Have you always wanted to visit India, but the hassle of planning and the intensity of group schedules is putting you off? Hi, I'm Craig, owner and tour leader of Maharaja Tours. With 40 years experience travelling India, I curate stress-free luxury tours where you can expect top hotels, easy travel, excellent guides and delicious food. Visit my website www.maharajatours.co.nz and explore your options for touring incredible India.